Hey, Fidelity. What's it cost to invest with the Fidelity app?
Start with as little as $1 with no account fees or trade commissions on U.S. stocks and ETFs.
That's music to my ears.
I can only talk.
Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Zero account fees apply to retail brokerage accounts only. Sell order assessment fee not included. A limited number of ETFs are subject to a transaction-based service fee of $100. See full list at fidelity.com/commissions. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE, SIPC.
So good, so good, so good.
Great brands, great prices. Everyone's got a reason to rack.
Because they have framed jeans.
Nike? Yes.
Just so many good brands.
Vince, Kurt Geiger London, Rag & Bone, and more are at Nordstrom Rack stores now. You never know what you'll find, but you know it's going to be so good. Great brands, great prices. That's why you rack.
Every cup of Nespresso coffee is an invitation to transform your morning routine into a ritual you can treasure each and every day. Using the Virtuo Pup, a simple touch of the button freshly brews bold aromas and a rich, velvety crema layer for delicious cafe-quality coffee at home. Whether you enjoy your coffee hot or over ice, every sip, every morning is unforgettable. Nothing tastes like Nespresso coffee. Visit Nespresso.com or our app to explore our full range of easy-to-use machines and coffees not found anywhere else.
Hey everyone, welcome to this edition of Spin Shuffle Skip on the There Can Only Be One podcast channel, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network. Do you like your wrestling? Well, I hope so, because we are going back in time to the days when WWE had an F to give. We're listening to Piledriver, the Wrestling Album 2. And here to join us for their 1, 2, 3 count, Lyle Robichaud's back on the show. Lyle, how you doing?
Oh, Jason, you know I'm always happy to talk about wrestling on one of your shows. Anytime I get the excuse, I love to rant about it.
See, I was so excited when you mentioned this album because I remember watching like Saturday afternoon wrestling on CHCH TV with Billy Red Lions there telling us all about the matches they're about to come up and who's going to kick the Brooklyn Brawlers' ass. And this was Saturday afternoon. This was, right now, someone's going, the Brooklyn Brawler, dear God, how old are you? Well, I'm not saying. But this album came out when this was like my peak wrestling time. But for you, where does this kind of fit into your wrestling lore?
Well, as most people who knows me knows, I got into it when I was a kid as well, but it was around 2003-ish when I first started to dip my toes into this circus, and it was crack. So I had to get a hold of absolutely everything, and I went back in time pretty quickly. So I heard this pretty early on in my wrestling fandom journey. It was pretty early when the music kind of stuck with me, and I'm like, the theme songs and the entrances are some of my favorite parts of this, so I have to know everything there is to know, which led me to Piledriver, actually, when I was pretty young. I couldn't have been in high school yet when I first listened to this album.
Yeah, I mean, I still remember going to see, and this is when you had to actually do this back in the day, going to the Robert Gertain Arena in what the time was Hull, Quebec. Now it's Gatineau, Quebec, to watch WrestleMania 5 on closed circuit television in an arena on those ridiculously hard benches. My ass still has not forgiven me for that.
Worth it, though. I used to go to the Empire Theaters in Fredericton, New Brunswick. They used to have one theater playing all the pay-per-views. So that's how I started to kind of consume the media when I was like, okay, the weekly shows aren't doing it. I have to see the title matches.
Yeah.
So it's funny how things change and how they stay the same. There's always going to be a gathering somewhere that's playing it.
Well, that was the thing. Like back then, your weekly match was just like, here's your big wrestler and the jobber whose ass they're going to kick.
Absolutely. No good matches except for on the pay-per-views back in the day.
Exactly. Now it's all on Netflix, so you're good.
Oh, it's incredible. It's a great time to be a wrestling fan. It's all on one big streaming service. That's one thing about conglomeration that I can get behind. Put more wrestling on Netflix.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take this album full of wrestling entrance music and a couple other songs and pick 3 songs each, a spin, a shuffle, and a skip. The spin is the win, the shuffle is the win by DQ, and the skip is where you basically get hit with a foreign object. This album was released September 21st, 1987. Rick Derringer is featured prominently on this album, which was also co-produced by the one and only Jim Johnston. And if you know your WWE music lore, Jim Johnston is a god amongst men. So Lyle, over to you. Your spin pick from Piledriver, the wrestling album 2.
So my spin from Piledriver, one of the better theme songs of the day, I think, is Crank It Up, which was the theme song for the tag team, the Wild Stallions, performed by Jimmy Hart, who does a lot on this album as well. And I just think this sounds kind of like a Judas Priest song. Honestly, like if you look at the catalog of stuff that was on here, you get a lot of very random things on Piledriver. And you go all the way from what I can kind of call big band to a lot of heavier metal stuff. And this one, Crank It Up, kind of fits into my genre of music of the day. I would listen to this unironically. I think it's a great rock song.
I was eyeballing that one because it does have like a really good kind of bar rock kind of riff to it. But I couldn't. I just couldn't because, yeah, you have to understand. For me, when it came to back in the day, my favorite wrestler, nay, my favorite wrestlers were the longtime WWF back at the time, tag team champions, Demolition.
Yes. Oh, great.
Here
awesome.
comes the axe and here comes the smash. Oh my God.
Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible choice.
This sound, and as I'm listening to the song and how it's sung, it sounds literally like Alice Cooper doing his own version of Kiss's I Love It Loud. That's what this song feels like.
It gives very, very much Kiss energy because Demolition was very heavily inspired by the Road Warriors, who were themselves heavily inspired by glam rock of the day. And like, okay, face paint, shoulder pads, spikes. Like, let's look like cartoon characters that are going to fight the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. Let's get a very King Diamond-esque kind of face paint going on. And then you put like the black studded goalie mask that they had on at the time. This was, to me, the best wrestling entrance music until you had like The Undertaker and The Ultimate Warrior, because that song also hit pretty good as well.
It's true. This is still garnered as one of the best wrestling theme songs to this day. One of the biggest tag teams in the industry. They had the record for the longest reign as tag team champions until only like 3 years ago. So it was 30 years that record stood as it was because they were so popular at the time. My father loved them as well. Also Tugboat, hilariously enough. But no, Demolition's my shuffle as well. It's great that you bring it up because that's 100% where I was going. It was a really hard toss-up because of the history of it, but I had to look at, okay, what is the better song on this album? The album also has the creepiest album cover of any of the wrestling albums. It's Hulk Hogan in a white hard hat staring deadpan directly into the camera was the original album cover, which I can only assume is the POV of what the last thing a bottle of Vicodin saw.
This literally looks like what would happen if Hulk Hogan didn't get the job interview to be part of the Village People.
It's very much a what did you just say, brother? Look, it's not good. It's not a great album cover. But no, Demolition, amazing. Probably one of the better themes of that time.
Oh yeah. And that's the thing too. I think there's always going to be a correlation between the wrestlers that you're a fan of and liking the song, because it's very much, and all you have to do is go watch the freaking Royal Rumble. The moment when the clock winds down and then there's that pause as you're waiting to find out who the next entrant is. And the minute that song kicks, the Royal Rumble above every single wrestling event is the best thing that ever happened to entrance music.
Most definitely. For presentation, especially, it really does do a good way of measuring how popular somebody is, because you're right, that first riff of that theme song, if they're big, people know them. You look at the biggest names in the industry, John Cena, Triple H, Edge especially. Edge has an amazing beginning to is the whisper of "You think you know me," and then ripping right into Alter Bridge.
Yep.
Everybody knows that. And I would say the wrestling version has transcended the band at this point, even though the band has chops on their own. But because it's so popular as his theme song, a lot of people just know it as, oh, that's Edge's song. That's the Edge theme song.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I actually remember seeing Alter Bridge in Toronto, And like first thought in my mind was like, tell me Edge is going to be here. Tell me Adam Copeland is going to be in the building. And I feel so bad too, because I guess Miles Kennedy, the singer, was a little under the weather that show. And when you're under the weather, that's not exactly an easy song to play. But he's like, "Oh, we're gonna do it anyways," and the crowd helped him along with it. So that was fantastic.
I recently saw an AEW show where Edge was on the card, still using this song no matter what company he goes to. And one of the cool things you can find on YouTube, if you look it up, is the crowd keeping the song going after the music gets cut in the arena. So they got to the On This Day, and everybody kept singing along, and the camera held for like 30 seconds and let them finish out the verse. When you have a good theme song, it can increase your like star power almost in a wrestling ring by tenfold if it's good enough.
Oh yeah. I mean, let's be honest. Rock and wrestling have been hand in hand for longer than anyone can care to remember, going all the way back to like the Cyndi Lauper days.
Oh, yes. And if you look at it now, that's back in full force. There's a lot of huge acts that are showing up to WrestleMania every year. Look at even now in the common sphere, Snoop Dogg is a huge friend of WWE, does a lot of work with them. They do a lot of work with all the big rappers, all the big streamers. Pop culture and wrestling have been intertwined together for decades now.
Oh, it's a staple. There is no way in hell you could ever pull WWE and pro wrestling of any federation off of the air, because it's like Saturday Night Live. Like, no matter, and it's almost exactly like Saturday Night Live, because think about it. Everybody in the history of ever has their era, their cast of Saturday Night Live. You know, whether it be the Mike Myers and Dana Carvey years, whether it be the Eddie Murphy years, whether it be like they're ready for primetime players way back in the day, whether it's, you know, the Will Ferrell years, like, doesn't matter. Everyone has their era of SNL. Same thing with wrestling. Everyone has their era, whether it's the Attitude Era, the Federation era, the modern era. Like, so everyone has that moment where they watched wrestling in some form or another. There's no way you can take that completely off TV.
No, oh my goodness, people would riot. There would be very serious consequences. They've tried it before. There's been instances where local states have tried to take it off the air in certain places, and even the smaller federations. Like, I remember when Pennsylvania wanted ECW off the air, and people just simply said, no, we will make enough noise and rattle enough cages and send enough letters to get it back. Very much a Family Guy situation. It almost became uncancelable at a point. Think of we'll talk about it very soon for one of the songs on this album. Think about all the controversies that have been involved in wrestling, all the times where some terrible real life things have happened, and still the show would go on.
Oh, yeah. It's bigger than the wrestlers in the ring.
Oh, yes. The art has been firmly separated from the artists, and people have taken this kind of stance of, okay, you can get rid of him or her or whoever's causing the issue, but you're damn sure not taking the show away.
Oh, exactly.
Like, yeah.
Lowe's knows that free is just better. That's why MyLowe's Rewards is free to join. As a member, you earn points towards MyLowe's money on eligible purchases, get exclusive free gifts, and earn free shipping at Silver Key status, all on top of weekly member-only deals. Don't wait. Join MyLowe's Rewards for free today and start saving more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
Good night, itchy eyes. Good night, sudden sneeze. Good night to your symptoms of allergies. Zysol is the allergy medicine you take before bed. It provides powerful relief while you rest your head. Not just all night, but all the next day. Zysol keeps working, keeping allergies at bay. And without those annoying symptoms disturbing your rest, you can wake up the next morning feeling your absolute best. Remember, be wise all. Take Zysol. At night.
Here at the Almond Joy Factory, where tropical vibes abound, we use soft, fresh-tasting coconut.
The crunchiest almonds and delicious chocolate candy.
Ah, but do you know what our most important ingredient is? Sometimes you feel like a nut.
Sometimes you don't.
Almond Joy's got nuts and something even way better than that. Yes, Almond Joy is made with almonds and joy.
For my shuffle pick, I'm going with a wrestler that I remember seeing at a house show back in the day. Because, house shows is when you actually got to see the big matches without actually seeing them on TV middle of the week. But it might not be the song you would expect from me. I'm going with the title track, Piledriver, the entrance music of Coco Beware.
The Birdman.
Yep. Hey, first of all, Coco Beware was just so much fun on TV. But this is actually a really decent, soulful song. It's got some powerful vocals behind it too. And I'm listening to this again. I'm just like, holy crap, this was actually a bit of a, like, there's some oomph to this song.
And also huge video for the time when MTV and like music videos were just kind of becoming a thing. This was one of the ones that was played a lot. Because wrestling was so huge in the 80s, and there was a lot of cameos in it from basically everybody that was on TV at the time. It was so big, so it's not a surprise that this made it onto the list.
Yeah. I mean, like, no one's ever going to sit there and say Coco Beware is their favorite wrestler. Maybe some birds. But
he's
still,
in the Hall of Fame. He's in the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely. But I mean, I was reading some articles where it's like Coco Beware may be the definition of the bottom when it comes to Hall of Fame entrance. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I always enjoyed watching Coco Beware as, I mean, a bit of a high flyer. No Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, but a bit of a high flyer, colorful. Like, he was exactly what you wanted out of wrestling back in the day.
And a lot of people use the gimmick as the reason why he shouldn't be in there. Oh, he just had a bird. That's cool. I'm sorry. If I'm a kid and there's this guy coming up with a giant macaw parrot, like, you're immediately interested. You're immediately like, show me what this is all about kind of thing. There's some very stupid gimmicks, Jason, that have gotten over and have gotten to the point of like legend. Hacksaw Jim Duggan carries around a piece of wood, puts his thumb in the air and goes, ho. And if you do that anywhere, I did it personally at several wrestling shows where the crowd goes quiet before a match starts, you yell it, the whole arena is going to do it with you. So there's some very dumb things that stick, and that makes them not dumb immediately because they stick.
Bushwhackers, anybody?
Yeah, exactly. If it's stupid but it works, it's not stupid.
Yeah, 3 words: Dr. Isaac Yankum.
Or the Christmas Creature, as he was known before that.
Oh dear God. There were some moments. There were some
Duke
moments.
The Dumpster Drosy.
Yes. Oh dear God.
Don't get me. If we get on this, I'll be here all. I know all the bad gimmicks.
All right. Well, now we get to your skip picks. As we already hit your shuffle, your skip pick.
This one was very easy. It's Stand Back by Vince McMahon. Aged like milk. Already it aged like milk. Like, no one was a fan of this beforehand because this was back in a time when people did not know that Vince McMahon was the owner of the company that ran literally everything with a quite very real iron fist, and kind of ran the backstage politics and all of the drugs and all of the things that were wrong with it, all the way up to when he almost tanked the company a couple of years ago and ended up getting ousted as a monster. So to see him hilarious. To see him stand on stage and sing about how he's the greatest thing walking, and about how anybody gets in front of him should stop, and anybody that thinks they're not going to do what he says, they're wrong. It does not read well at this stage right now. It didn't back then. Was often used to make fun of him by a lot of his detractors. They go to that video and they're like, look at this idiot. And they're right.
Yeah. I had that on my short list of skip songs because no one in the history of ever should ever give Vince McMahon a singing microphone. He could work the mic back in the day. That was fine. And just no, just no. Who's also going to tell the boss, maybe you shouldn't do that, you suck.
Exactly. And apparently it was very much his idea. Looked into the story of this album several times. I've heard the story of this album, and he was very adamant that one of the songs be his, and he picked this one, I guess. I don't know what was behind the decision. The music video is a live on stage single cut of it where they do like the pantomime performance in the background. You've got all the wrestlers on like saxophones and random instruments. It's a fever dream. If you watch the music video for this song, there's Brutus the Barber Beefcake on a saxophone, which he is not playing. He's not pressing anything, and he's just like giving it his all. It's so bad. It's not so bad it's good. It's just so bad.
Yeah, anyone who complains about 1985 and the Chicago Bears doing the Super Bowl shuffle, just no.
Yeah, it gets so much worse.
I'm going to preface my skip pick by quoting a comment from the YouTube video. What would happen if WWF had their own version of We Are the World? It's If You Only Knew. This has to be one of the worst examples of rap meeting, pop meeting, commercial 80s sensationalism, complete with a spoken word bridge between Hulk Hogan and Mr. Ted DiBiase, which he's just like, oh yeah, we'll go talk to Virgil. Like, what?
And you have Macho Man just coming in randomly and saying things too at certain points. It is ridiculous, and it is very much a We Are the World. It feels kind of like those Saturday morning drug PSA cartoons.
Yes.
Where they would have all of the different cartoons from the different shows show up. It feels like that, and the cheese level is exactly the same. It's so but that's why I didn't pick it as my skip, because this is too cheesy. I like it because of that.
I mean, this is very much the Limburger of cheese on this album. I mean, like, musically it's okay. The chorus actually isn't too bad, but oh my god, it
of all the ones you picked, that's amazing.
Like, go back and watch 8 Mile and all the rap battles in that, and then ask yourself, great, now what if this sucked? This is kind of what it feels like. It feels like a rap battle that should never have happened.
Oh, don't worry, I'm gonna make you do Macho Man's rap album too.
Oh dear God. That's it. I'm gonna start lining up albums, and you're gonna hate it.
I haven't hated any of the albums yet. It's the movies.
You also signed up for that, though. You know what you're signing up for.
I don't know how many times we mentioned it on your various podcasts, but Dungeon Siege still haunts me.
Oh man. All right, Lyle, please remind our listeners what your spin, shuffle, and skip picks were from Piledriver, the wrestling album 2.
My spin was Crank It Up by Jimmy Hart, which was the theme song for the Wild Stallions. My shuffle was Demolition because it's amazing. It's a classic in every respect. My skip was Stand Back by Vincent Kennedy McMahon.
And for me, my spin pick is Demolition. My shuffle is Coco Beware's entrance music, Piledriver. And my skip is the charity single we didn't know we really wanted, If You Only Knew, which features pretty much the entire WWF cast, and you just go to witness protection from there after that one.
UNICEF, more like Unisucks. Am I right?
Yeah. And now he's going to hop over to YouTube and write that on that video, because that actually is a good line. Lyle, thank you so much for this. Before we go, please let our listeners know what you've been up to and where they can find you out there on the interwebs.
You can find me out on the interwebs and all my social medias. Just look up Lyle Robichaud. I'm also a guest on several of Danny Stover's podcasts in the Toronto area and a producer for Anthem Sports Entertainment. So watch your TNA Wrestling every Thursday night.
All right, dude. Thank you so much for this. And thank you for the flashbacks to all of my 80s days of watching wrestling. And to you, our listeners, thank you so much. Now, you guys know the drill. If there's an album that you want us to cover on Spin Shuffle Skip, or an artist that you want us to cover on There Can Only Be One, hit us up on social media at OnlyOneCast, or go to our website at notthatbadcast.com. And while you're there, make sure you subscribe to It's Not That Bad, wherever you get your podcasts, because March is coming up. That can only mean one thing. Razzies month is right around the corner. So prepare thyself for the craptacularness that we are going to be reviewing. Until next time, he's Lyle, I'm Jay. You guys are awesome. This is Spin Shuffle Skip on the There Can Only Be One podcast channel, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network. Take care.
Do you love it loud? Come to Rockin' Pod Weekend in Nashville. Rock convention featuring panels, interviews, podcasts, signing sessions, vinyl, pop culture collectibles, and more. Over 30 celebrity guests, members of LA Guns, Accept, Kicks, and more. Live concerts, Nashville Rockin' Fest Thursday, Rare Hair on Friday, Tuck Smith and the Restless Hearts Saturday, Punchlines and Backlines All-Star Comedy Show on Sunday. Full details at rockinpod.com.